Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ms. Roney Reads. We're back in lockdown, so I have some time to go through the bookshelves and find some books that I would recommend for you. Now, you might be wondering, Ms. Roney, why is there tinsel up at your house? It's not Christmas time. Well, we celebrated Christmas in August last night, and we had a big old Christmas dinner, so that's why there's tinsel hanging around. Today, we're reading Tiger Daughter by Rebecca Lim. Let's read the blurb. What I feel most days is that nothing is ever going to change, that my life won't even start, and that I'll be stuck like this forever. Wenzu is the only child of Chinese immigrants whose move to the lucky country has proven to be not so lucky. Wen and her friend Henry Zhao, whose mum and dad are also struggling immigrants, both dream of escape from their unhappy circumstances and form a plan to sit an entrance exam to a selective high school far from home. But when tragedy strikes, it will take all of Wen's resilience and resourcefulness to get herself and Henry through the storms that follow. Let's get started. Prologue. The day before things were never the same again. As we take our places in the classroom, Mr. Cornish writes with a flourish on the whiteboard. What is the essence of being Australian? At least 100 words, he says brightly, turning to his face to us. Incomplete sentences, no shopping lists. Con, I'm looking at you. Con's mouth turns down at the corners. Can't I just write whatever? Henry hisses in Chinese out of the side of his mouth. Henry Zhao and I are sitting at the back of our before-school extra English catch-up class that our school runs for refugee and migrant kids. I don't need to be here, even though I might look like I do, but my best friend Henry does. I'm only here to provide him with moral support and general translation services. Mr. Cornish has just set up another inspirational writing task in a long line of perky questions about Australian customs and sayings. And Henry is right. Whatever, summed up by the Chinese word suibian, meaning casual, random, whatevs, would be a completely appropriate answer to the question on the whiteboard. But I know it wouldn't be enough for Mr. Cornish, who's got so much bushranger beard going on that when he says things like, "More, Henry, I need more," just about no one in the room can understand him, especially not Henry, which is exactly why I'm here. A one-word answer isn't going to improve anyone's language skills or mood this morning, so I shake my head at Henry now. Won't cut it, I murmur, pointedly in English, which Henry knows he should be speaking the minute he sets foot on school grounds. And that is the whole problem with this language when, Henry mutters back in defiant Chinese, what am I cutting? For whom am I cutting it? Henry's classified as straight off the refo boat by horrible Billy Raum. Billy believes that anyone who does their homework is a danger to society and that people who can't play football are genetically abnormal and should have been left, like weak Spartan babies, to die of exposure on a lonely hillside. I know this because he said so to my face, right after he called me slant eyes. Not that they do, actually. Not that it should matter if they did. Is there a problem, Wen? Mr. Cornish says to me now. I shrug an apology. Both he and I know that he's doing me and Henry a favour by letting me even attend this class. How is he able to produce those noises without moving his lips? Henry whispers in Chinese, with fascination. And if you have something to say, Henry Zhao, Mr. Cornish swivels his abundant facial hair back in Henry's direction, you can say it to the whole class, please. Henry screws up his face and replies laboriously in his painful, literal English, with sincerest apologies, I am bringing you inconvenience. There's a short pause in the room, like a held breath, and then everyone bursts out laughing, even Mr. Cornish. The room rings with it. Henry flushes red, whoosh, from his ratty t-shirt collar right up to his hairline. He's glowing like a stop sign. You sound like my father, Joseph Kovacevic laughs, not in a mean way, but Henry rises from his chair, grabbing all his books and pens with shaking hands. I stop laughing. I get the feeling that people have laughed at Henry for most of his life, and that one of his dearest wishes when he grows up is for that to never happen again. I don't think Henry is looked after much at home. He hardly ever has any lunch. I give him some of mine when I can spare it, and Mrs. Spencer and the other teachers arrange for him and the other kids whose parents can't afford lunch or don't remember to feed them to have a sneaky sandwich from the school tuck shop at least 3 times a week. Henry's this pale, skinny kid with a bad haircut, terrible plastic frame spectacles, and trousers so short his ankles are always showing. Mr. Cornish sees my steadying hand on the frayed cuff of Henry's sleeve and stops laughing as well. It's my turn to offer sincerest apologies, Henry, Mr. Cornish says gently, but you need to find a happy medium between what you just said. I'm sorry would have been enough in that context, and the one-word answers you usually like to give. Henry sits back down abruptly, something clearly having piqued his interest. He mutters to me in Chinese as Mr. Cornish turns towards the whiteboard. I understand the meaning of happy, but medium can mean many things when a person who speaks with the dead, an art form, an average, a substance. What is he talking about with the use of the word medium? Average, balance, I murmur out of the side of my mouth. Is it a happy balance? He wants you to find a happy balance when you speak in class. When you speak at all, I almost say, but don't. Wanting to add, you just need to speak. Hen, it does get easier. Ah, Henry says brightly, I will use this term in our forthcoming entrance exam. Happy medium. This is good. I begin. About that exam we're supposed to be taking. Do not jinx us, Henry says sharply, for once in word-perfect English, and I close my mouth with a snap at the expression on his face. Mr. Cornish looks around at us, frowning, before turning back to the whiteboard. Henry has this crazy idea that if we both sit the entrance exam to this amazing government-funded selective school next month, we'll get everything we ever wanted and our lives will change for the better. Our form teacher, Miss Spencer, told our whole class about the exam and the school, but we're the only 2 kids who can be bothered doing it because the place sounds like an impossible mirage. It's on the other side of town, but it might as well be on the other side of the world. Henry's insisting that we'll both get through with flying colours and that the excellent science and maths program for him and the outstanding arts, athletics and humanities program for me will mean that we'll be the people we're supposed to be instead of being 2 migrant kids living an hour's train ride out of the city, on a good day, in a suburb that's known in the newspapers for its homeless people, drug deals and gang violence. It's so bad here that Mum still walks me to and from school every day, even though I'm almost 14 and taller than she is. There's nothing beautiful about where we live except for the friends I've made at school, like Nikki Cool and Fatima Salah, whose parents came from opposite sides of Sudan and who'd probably not be friends if they still lived here instead of here. Still lived there instead of here. If we'd never come to Australia, I wouldn't even have known them either. So this school is the safest place in my life, and Henry's, and I'm not sure I want to leave it. What if we don't get in? I keep my voice very quiet. What if Miss Spencer's wrong about us being ready? Miss Spencer used to teach there, Henry reminds me under his breath. She only left because her mother got too sick to look after herself. Miss Spencer says that we'll love it there, that it has everything, that will fit right in, remember? He gets a faraway look in his eye, and I know he's thinking about the gleaming new 2-story library we saw in the brochure in Miss Spencer's office that also talked about debating and fencing teams, the robotic club, the performing arts centre, and the biennial space camps at NASA. I look at Henry, whose long-sleeved t-shirt is so stretched and wash-faded and threadbare that it looks like a ghost garment, then look down at me in my too tight school sweatshirt and jeans that are about to bust out into holes around the bum area. The denim is so thin that people will be able to make out the colour of my underpants any time now. I don't ever feel I can ask for anything new, so I don't ask, until someone eventually notices that my clothes are so tight or so short or so scandalous that I look like a sausage bursting rudely out of its skin, and one new garment may suddenly appear at the end of my bed. Just one, so that I don't get ideas. From a seconds warehouse somewhere, the kind filled with racks of clothing in shades of apricot, grey and aqua that are all marked $5. For a moment, I do feel longing for a place that will make me a better version of me. But unlike Henry, I don't feel that there is such a place, or that it can ever come true. What I feel most days is that nothing is ever going to change, that my life won't even start, and I'll be stuck like this forever. My parents will never let me go to that school, I whisper. I have to lie to my dad to just keep you company in this English enrichment class, remember? He thinks I'm coming here for my own personal enrichment. If he knew I was only coming here for you, that would be it. No more class. I'm not allowed to have friends or fun. I can't even leave the house if I'm not with him or mum. I don't think I'll be able to so much as sit the exam, let alone ever go to that school. It's wrong for you to even put the idea in my head, Henry Zhao. People who came out of that school can do anything and be anything, Henry insists, and is only prevented from continuing by the bell that signals the morning roll call. The look I give him says, "Don't be so sure." Mr. Cornish stops the two of us before we leave the classroom. "Henry," he says, his voice serious, "life is about taking risks. The more you do it, the easier it will become, okay? Don't be afraid that people will laugh. And don't," he gives me a shrewd glance, "stay inside that comfortable shell you've built around yourself. That shell, Henry, is an illusion. To live is to risk everything." He finishes grandly, twirling his moustache at one end. I study Mr. Cornish with his oiled beard and trendy new plaid shirt, dark pants, sockless shiny leather loafers, and a nice sporty silver car that drives him away at 3:57 every afternoon. "We're just at the start of his teaching journey," Miss Spencer said so. "We're the difficult stepping stone Mr. Cornish must jump from to reach a place in some inner east private school for rich kids." I wonder if he really believes what he's just said, or if it's just something catchy he's read somewhere. Mr. Cornish, fresh out of teachers' college, wilts a little as we walk out without a word. He doesn't understand that every day Henry and I are alive. There is no comfortable shell, and we're always at risk. It's the air we breathe, it's in our bones, and people like Mr. Cornish have absolutely no idea. That's the end of the prologue. I hope you enjoyed that first little bit of Tiger Daughter by Rebecca Lim. If you're interested, we have a copy in our school library, so please send Mrs. Matters a message or me, and we'll organise to get you a copy. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.